Hi, my name's Elise, and I am a survivor of abuse. I hate saying that. It's so. Why do I need to find a new way to introduce this. Hi, I'm Elise, and I have experienced abuse. That is not my identity. It's something that happened to me. Okay. I'm a survivor. Okay. So I want to talk today a little bit about what the beginning stages of healing from abuse can look like. And this is not going to be the same for everybody. In fact, my experience, I would say, so rare, like top 1%, okay, or bottom 1%, where middle 1%. Like most people who just escaped abuse kind of tend to follow the same patterns. Now, if you know that and you have seen those patterns and you are realizing you don't identify in that area, you might be one who identifies over here with me. So, as I transitioned out of my abusive past, this is going to be sloppy. I don't want to edit these videos, so I apologize ahead of time for all the interruptions for my kids, for my dog, and me brain farting. So, transitioning out of an abusive space, for me, it looked like hyper aggression. And not, yeah, maybe in the way that you're thinking, but as an adult, an adult female looks a little bit different. So for me, it was more like I was on a war path like all the time. And that's kind of like, I don't really identify as those people either. But for me, being a calm, chill, go with the flow girly, what on the war path actually looks like is like I stand my ground and I am not afraid to fight. And I'll also kind of throw shade and maybe throw some gentle daggers, gentle daggers in situations where, like, if I would have been in a more emotionally balanced place, I probably would have just blown it off because it just doesn't matter. So it was just like speaking up when it wasn't exactly necessary, but it took me some time to figure out when it is necessary to speak up versus when it's okay to like blow it off, brush it off. And there's opinions on that, right? Like there's some really big, strong opinions on that, especially for like a woman in 2025, like when and how she needs to be speaking up. And some people kind of take that to the extreme. And I would say I was tipping in that direction, but I've always been like a more calm, gentle-natured individual. So me being tipping towards the warpath was actually me probably being more on the normal side. But for people who were not used to that from me, that actually ended up burning a lot of bridges. Do I regret it? No. And that is actually something that happens when you are transitioning, when you're coming out of the previous version of yourself that had to adapt to survive the circumstances. When you're transitioning into this new version of you, that's going to come with a lot of goodbyes, okay? A lot of painful goodbyes, a lot of unexpected goodbyes. And so that's something that I would say I was not expecting in my journey, was all the goodbyes that had to take place. And me just realizing like this new version of me is no longer fitting into that space with those people. And so transition. So transitioning, burning some bridges, and it's not a bad thing. You need to move into this new you. You need to grow into this person. And maybe it's the old you. Maybe it's the you that you were always supposed to be, meant to be. Deep down, you always were her, all those things. Like you are growing more into you and who you are. And that means saying goodbye to most people. Okay, so burning bridges, setting those firm boundaries, sticking to those firm boundaries, and upsetting a lot of people, ruffling a lot of feathers, challenging positions of authority, Especially if your abuser was of a certain gender, you will challenge that gender more. And you will also put up your guard more for that gender. If there's a certain personality type, or if they held a certain position in your community, or if they held a certain status, a leadership position, a business owner, leader in the church, or whatever. Okay, all those things you are now gonna have no respect for. And you will have no patience, and you will probably for a long time view other individuals in those positions as a mirror or a reflection. You will project your abuser onto those people. And so you will just see them as these icky, dingy, awful people that are pretending to be likable and to hold this position that they're in or whatever. And so you are just constantly going to be looking at them like, I don't know, like super sus, or kind of like, oh, I know your secret. And like a little bit of a hater, okay? This will balance out over time a little bit, but I don't know when that sus is gonna go away, because it's still there for me. So whenever I meet people who are in similar, like I said, positions and status in the community and world and corporate America and religion, I'm always really sus. And then there might also be like some sexual confusion. If this abuse that you have endured, maybe for a significant amount of time, and maybe from multiple different sources, and maybe from the same gender, that can be a source of sexual confusion and sexual orientation. And so many people who are transitioning out of this abusive space that they've grown accustomed to, and they kind of have attached that space to a specific gender, then they will maybe transition, maybe change sides, switch teams, things like that. Or you might wonder, and you might have questions like, I wonder what it would be like over there. I wonder what it would be like playing on that side of the court. You know what I mean? There's a major identity crisis that happens. Anything that was associated with this version of you, it feels like you're carrying dead weight by bringing those previous associations into this transition and into this new version of you. And so if you identified as a certain religious orientation previously or throughout your life, it's going to be hard for you to identify with that during this transition period. If you identify it as like a soft girl feminine, it's going to be hard for you to carry soft girl feminine into that future period, and things like that. So like, you change your appearance. I changed my hair. I've always been a brunette. I've never been blonde in my whole life. But through my transition, I went blonde, and I feel like this is the real me. Dyeing my hair blonde. This feels more like my identity than my brunette ever did. And changing hairstyles, changing parts of your appearance, weight gain, weight loss, things like that. Oh, I changed my style. So I pretty much have been working towards rotating everything out of my closet and replacing it with all new clothing. Even if it's kind of similar to my previous style, I am trying to adapt something new that kind of, I feel like, fits more into this new version of me. Blonde, beachy, wavy, natural, but also a little glam. little glam, little sassy Elise, who likes to look good but also comfortable. Okay. So yeah, there's like a big identity shift that happens. A lot of that has to do with our appearance, and a lot of that has to do with how we use our time, our hobbies, our lifestyle. So maybe you're going to pick up running when you've never been a runner your whole life. I picked up running, and then I picked up trail running. What? Okay, I picked up trail running and been working out more in different ways. I've always been a big exercise girly, but I'm working out in completely different ways than I ever did before. I have gone back to my roots, but just back to the real me, right? Of being an adventure girly, adventure spirit. And so I'm into like adventure wellness and adventure sports, kayaking, hiking, mountain biking, trail running, all those things. You're gonna hear my kids. So and while I was in that more that abusive space, I didn't have any hobbies. I didn't have much of a lifestyle. I was just kind of like existing and surviving. That was what the last decade of my life was all about, was just trying to keep breathing air from one day to the next. And so through the transition, I've rediscovered myself. I've gone back to my roots of being an adventure spirit and free-spirited person, and I've gone back to those things. I've picked them up more and more as I've gone along through my journey. The emotional health and mental health aspect is very chaotic. It's not linear. It doesn't make sense. And it's just a big roller coaster. And it's a lot like what was experienced in the previous phase of life in that environment of abuse, that constant chaos and constant roller coaster, high highs, low lows, twists, turns, ups, downs, backward, forward, all around. Okay, that is what the mental health journey of a person recovering, the recovery period, that it continues just in completely different ways. So it's kind of like, you're doing better, you're feeling good, you're feeling better, and then something happens, and hopefully the goal will be for you to be able to identify it, the trigger, and you'll have a setback. And you'll find yourself kind of behaving in ways and reacting to situations as if you were her again, all over again. And you're handling this as if you were back here. Okay. It's like this whole PTSD thing. You're back in war and you're acting like you're in war, even though you're not, and you don't need to be. And so it's just like, okay, we figured that out. We're progressing again. And then we have another setback, and then we progress again. And then we have another setback. But you see, like, you move forward, but there are setbacks that are really discouraging, and it can get in your head, and it can really mess with you, and it can really make you think like, wow, maybe I'm not doing as well as I think I am, or maybe maybe I'm more messed up than I realize. Maybe I'm forever scarred. Maybe I will never be okay again. Am I ever going to make it out of this? You're not really seeing the light at the end of the tunnel when you're doing this, because it just feels like you're constantly sliding backwards, and you get really hard on yourself. And then you become your own abuser and you start abusing yourself, and you start attacking your own progress and your own inability to just snap out of it and move forward. Even though, and that's the big lie, even though you are doing better than you think you are, even though you're doing way better than maybe even most people in your circumstances. The unfortunate thing is that the likelihood of you finding another individual who went through exactly what you went through is so slim to none. You won't have anything to compare yourself to. And so whoever you have compared yourself to, or if you're comparing yourself to your future self, right? Because That's what we do sometimes. That's what I do, is like I compare myself to who I want to be, my best self, my highest self, and I compare myself to her constantly, and I'm always falling short, and I beat myself up for that. So it's impossible for you to just get past that barrier sometimes. And that, I think, is the big ugly part of the recovery period of overcoming abuse, is the constant setbacks, not constant, but the frequent setbacks that have you thinking like, wow, I'm broken. I've got nothing good to offer. Life, if this is life from now on, why? And you find yourself thinking some of the same things that you used to think in your previous phase of life, things that are not helpful thoughts, things that are not helping you progress and move forward, things that just encourage the downward spiral, that bring that dark cloud back, things like that. And that is part of the process. That is the ugly, nitty-gritty part of clawing your way out of hell. And that is essentially what you're doing. And so just because you can see the world around you that other people are living does not mean that that is your world yet. You are still clawing your way out of the depths of hell. And you have to give that the acknowledgement, the reality that it deserves. That is the truth. That is the reality. We're gonna acknowledge that for being what it actually is. And those people over there, they are not like us. And we're not going to worry about them. We're not going to pay attention to them, even though we're walking around as if we live in that world. And it's really bizarre because we definitely don't. We're definitely in different universes. And yet here we are living side by side. So weird. So, I understand the whole philosophy of like isolating, because sometimes speaking up is not helpful, especially when you talk to the wrong people. And usually it's the wrong people. Usually. The whole likelihood that you are going to speak to somebody else who's been through what you've been through is so slim to none. So slim to none. So if you speak up, it actually reinforces those unhelpful thoughts that you're having that are causing the spiral. And so other people are saying what your dark demon inner mind is saying, and you're reinforcing the spiral. So you have to be really choosy. You got to be really careful about who you open up to. You got to make sure that whoever you're opening up to is going to be encouraging, productive. Whatever advice they give to you, whatever they have to say to you, it's got to be productive. It's got to help nourish and nurture healing and progress. Not hinder it. Not put you back more. Not push you back more. Not set you back more. Not push you further down your spiral. Okay? All of the victim shaming that takes place. Well, it's your own fault. Well, you brought that upon yourself. Well, sometimes it's hard to take ownership of the role that you played in your own suffering. You made that bed. Now you get to lay in it. All that shit. Unhelpful little shits. Little shits. Little shits. Okay, little birds. We're not going to talk to them, and we're not going to listen to them. Okay? That is not helpful, and it's not productive, and it's not true. This is going to get really controversial really fast. It's going to trigger and upset a lot of people that have never been abused. Okay? But this is not for them. This is for you. Okay? So, the whole philosophy of we control what happens to us and we control what we allow people to do. I want you to just think about how absolutely insane that is. Okay? My neighbor, I have no idea what they're doing right now. Whatever they're doing, am I allowing it? Oh, my neighbor, she's scrolling on TikTok when she should be helping her sick child. Am I allowing that to happen? Because it's right next to me. It's right across the street. It's another person. So I'm allowing her to do that, right? It's in my control. It's in my power. I should go make another adult individual person do something else, right? No. Think about how absolutely insane that is. If we are to take accountability for an abuser's actions, then why are we not taking accountability for all the evil happening in this world? You and I both know what's happening around the world right now. Can we really do anything about it? Oh, is that going to upset some people? Yeah. Can I control another person? Can you control me? No. Look. Why aren't you stopping me? Huh? Why are you allowing me to do this? Okay? You are not allowing me to do jack shit. You're not God. Some people think that we get to play God. We're not God. You don't get to manipulate and control me. That's what the abusers try to do. And they're actually pretty successful at it. That's what makes them psychos. They're psychopaths. We're not psychopaths. We recognize an individual as an individual who is accountable for themselves, who's responsible for their own actions. Okay? An abuser, being an abuser, is not being allowed to be an abuser and is not being forced to be an abuser. It just is. It just is what it is. It's happening. Okay? The abuse is going to happen regardless. Now, you and I both know why a woman stays in an abusive situation and why people stay in abusive situations longer than they probably should. You and I both know because we've experienced that. We understand. We understand all the threats and the aggression and the violence that takes place, the isolation, the financial abuse. So things that keep a person trapped. You and I both know this. Okay? They are not allowing the abuse. The abuse happens regardless. And you and I both know that the more that you fight for yourself, the more that you stand up for yourself, the more that you put those strict boundaries in place, the more aggression the abuser takes on you. And so you know that in order to minimize the level of pain and abuse, you just kind of duck your head and skirt by. Okay, this is survival. And if anybody thinks that they would do it differently, so the abuse happens. The victim does what they need to survive, as anybody would. And then they find a way to escape, as people do. And it is none of our business. It's kind of like none of our business what they did to us, if that makes sense. So for us to assume that we could have had any power or control over that situation is absolutely absurd and it's ludicrous. Whatever was going on with that person, that abuser, and why they did what they did is essentially none of our business. That's their war that we got caught up in. They are living in a violent world. And that has nothing to do with us. Has nothing to do with us. It's none of our business. It's not a reflection on us. Has nothing to do with the type of person that we are, the quality of person that we are. Really, it's completely separate from us. We survived the abuse. We escaped the abuse. We're recovering from the abuse. That's all that we are. That, whatever happened, was absolute madness. And for us to assume that we could have controlled that, absolute madness. Complete and utter madness. You cannot control another person. That's psychotic. If a person thinks that you can control another person, then they are thinking like the abuser. And that is the abuser. And you and I are not the abuser. We don't attempt to control others. We don't attempt to be little puppeteers of little individual people. Okay? What they are, what they do, it's none of our business. And it's completely detached from us. So you gotta sever that attachment from what you experienced to who you are and realize it had nothing to do with you. I went down that spiral of like, well, it was because I was too this, I was too that, I was too much of a people pleaser, I was too soft, I was too submissive, I was too this, I was too that. If you're being honest with yourself, okay, we all need to grow, right? Like we all need to grow, and that's important. Growth is important. But if you would have been with a safe individual, you being sweet and gentle and submissive in your feminine, all those things, that you would have been safe. You would have been fine. Think about it. If you would have been the same person with a safe person, how different would that look? And they would have encouraged you to grow in a productive and helpful and healthy way. And you would have learned how to set those boundaries in a healthy and productive way. I've seen this. Okay? You can be a soft, gentle girly, totally in your feminine, looking for that masculine, and you find a safe masculine, and you're safe. But if you're a sweet, gentle girly in your feminine, and you find unhealthy masculine, and you find abuse, that's not on you. It's a completely different territory. So to assume the fault was yours is ludicrous. It is absolutely insane. It's insanity. That is a person we're talking about, a human, an adult human who knows who they are, knows what they're doing, knows exactly what they're doing, knows why they're doing it. And they have to take accountability for themselves. We are not in charge of them. That's not our job. It's not our job to control them. It's not our job to make them accountable. They won't be they're never going to be accountable. Okay? You can't make a psychopath, sociopath. You can't make them be accountable. They're never going to be accountable. Okay? You have to detach you from them. You have to detach you from what they did to you. Because what they are and what they did to you has nothing to do with you. Has nothing to do with you. Okay? So that's the scary part. When you're transitioning, is you want to leave behind all those sweet, feminine, gentle traits that you had, and you want to become this hard, scary porcupine of a human. And the trick is to not let that happen. It's to not let that turn you into a really rough, gruff, mean, scary individual that probably won't find the love that they deserve, because they're just going to be constantly scaring it away. So the trick is to remain soft and remain feminine and remain in that gentle, soft girl flow with some new traits. Strong boundaries, all those things, okay? The things that should hopefully scare away bad men and should attract good men and healthy relationships. I'm saying men, people, okay? It should attract good people, good relationships. Should. Will that always be the case? No. You've learned how to recognize the narcissist. You've learned how to recognize You've learned how to recognize the sociopath. You've learned how to figure out what happens internally for you to be like, oh, I know what kind of person you are. Oh, you make me feel that way. Okay. There is a lot of triggers that'll happen even with healthy people, but you have to be able to recognize when you're being triggered by a healthy person versus when you're being triggered because your body is warning you. Your body is saying, oh, we know what that is. We know what that is. We know who that is. We know that we're not going there anymore. We're not going back. We don't belong there. We don't identify there. We're over here. Okay. And there is a difference, and they do feel different. And you'll be able to tell the difference. Okay. But when you're transitioning, it's going to be really chaotic. It's going to be really confusing. It's going to be confusing as hell. Okay, and you're going to get all it on your case, like, why can't I get this figured out? Why isn't it crystal clear? Why isn't my path clear? Why isn't my path lit up? Why am I not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel? Why am I not at the light at the end of the tunnel? Why am I still in this tunnel? Something must be wrong with me. It must be me. I must be the problem. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, bullshit. It's bullshit. Okay, not helpful, not productive. It's not encouraging this. It's encouraging this. Anything that encourages this, light that. Light it on fire and watch it burn, okay? We're not going to feed that bad wolf, that angry wolf. And we're going to be careful about who we talk to because little birdies, they have little opinions, okay? Little opinions, very ignorant, cute opinions, cute little people that have always been safe and comfortable. Okay? We're not going to encourage that ugly voice. We're not going to encourage her or him. We're going to acknowledge that the transition period is utter chaos. Totally chaotic. Forward progression, setback, forward progression, setback, forward progression, setback, forward progression, setback. We're going to fight the urge to become this hardened, mean, angry, bitter person. And we might even recognize, hey, maybe there's a phase where that person's going to help us and serve us for the better, but we're going to kiss her goodbye when it's time. Or we might take little bits and pieces of her with us and little bits and pieces, and we're going to construct this whole new version of us that's just, yes, love her. Okay? You are the master. You are the master of your fate. You are the master of your destiny. And wherever you are headed in the right direction if it's moving away from abuse. And it's not linear. It's messy. It's chaos. It's going to feel dark. It's going to feel confusing. You're going to have all sorts of crises, faith crisis, identity crisis, sexual identity crisis, all sorts of things. You're going to change your hair. You're going to change your appearance. Big transitions. It's all part of the process. And that's okay. And I don't even like saying that's okay because that almost indicates like, it's okay. No, it's like, that is what it is. That is what it is. This is what it is. That's what it is. Anybody who makes recovery look like this, or anybody who tells you that that's how it should look, remember, little ignorant opinions from people who don't know shit. Okay? Cute little birds. We are lionesses. Lionesses don't socialize with sparrows. No. Anyway, I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you can identify with this. If you have anything to comment about or questions, feel free to leave that in the comment section below and share this with somebody that you feel like needs to hear it. Thanks for watching.